What's up? It's your boys Jordan and Abraham. You guys know by now, he's a professional runner. He's your fast friend. I'm an MD PhD student, so I'm your smart friend. But most importantly, we are your friends who read One Piece. Before I get into this chapter, I just want to point out how Jordan is trying to cost me a friendship. Since we're all on this thing about friends and whatnot, I think Becky finally caught up to the episode that you brought her theory up in. And she seemed like she was really hurt by my reaction to her theory that you brought up. And I just hope you
I,
realize how much your actions have hurt the people around you, Jordan. I hope you
I
realize
would.
that, and I hope you think about that and reflect on that the next time you decide to make a decision.
I think maybe you should think about the words you use when you describe some of these theories because you never know where I might have gotten a theory, who might have originally said it. Uh, and I know that I would never ever say something so rude as what you said about a theory that our lovely, very kind, my dear friend Becky said. I should say my friend because I don't know if she's our friend anymore, but definitely my friend Becky. So
I'm gonna
uh,
have to start bringing up some Abraham originals on the S Cast throw you for a loop.
you deserve whatever I say.
Regardless, we had chapter 1011 this week, Palindrome. You'd think, uh, pretty. This might be like a
Palindrome.
milestone. Yeah, I don't know. People, I have all these Japanese friends who love these things with their numbers and chapters and whatnot, where they're like, chapter 286 would have revealed that the Mary is a Klabauterman, and so in chapter 862, if you flip the numbers, we know that this. I don't know. Maybe people like you have something to say about chapter 1111. I don't know what it means for you Japanese literate folks,
Well, you
but
know
it means
what
it
I
doesn't
what
really
I can
mean anything to
actually
me.
say, what I can actually say, because I'm glad to hear that you feel this way. And that you're starting to listen to some of these other Japanese friends who are talking about the meaning of these things. So you know that I'm not just crazy with all these wordplays. But I want to say, and also these people might be Uteron watchers. I don't know. That's my dog. So I just want to say that I made a mistake with my prediction in the last chapter actually, and I suggested that Imu or Im Sama is going to show up in in this current chapter, and that was unbelievably silly of me to suggest because one thing I have mentioned over and over is that the wordplay for Emu is 16. And so I just really want to put it out there because it's going to be coming up and I'm going to be getting ready to predict it. It's going to be 1116. That's when we're going to see Emu. Interestingly, an 11, 13, 11, 14 can both be read as One Piece. And this current chapter could actually be read as Joy Boy. So interesting to see the giant awakening and
You don't
asking
hear
and apologizing to Joy Boy.
how ridiculous you sound right now. Regardless, this chapter title was The Sun's Shield. We got a lot happening in this chapter, a lot of power scaling stuff. It felt like a lot of other non-power scaling things. But Jordan, why don't you give me a bit of a rundown of what was in the contents of this chapter, what you liked, what you didn't like, all that stuff.
Yeah, so we're gonna do it a little differently this week. We're gonna be we're gonna be discussing the chapter as we describe it. So the chapter 1111, we begin on Egghead with Zoro and Rob Lucci. Lucci is defeated and unable to move, and Jinbei knocks him away while marveling at the strength of Saint Mars's haki. Lucci gives Mars, who's the giant bird, by the way, a rundown of the situation. We've got 6 minutes until the broadcast and asks him to spare Kaku. Mars says it's hard to single out a single insect when you're eliminating the hive, showing what he thinks of even the humans who are fighting on his side. But this was an interesting moment for me just to start the chapter because Lucci asking someone to save Kaku felt very uncharacteristic of him and the ruthless character that we've come to know. Were you surprised by this?
Yeah, I didn't really think Lucci was someone, at least in Water 7, who cared about his allies. We saw, I feel like that was kind of the point of his flashback, where he sacrifices all of the king's soldiers because they weren't good enough soldiers. They were incompetent, so they deserved to die. I feel like
Right.
you could say this, you could kind of say the same thing about Kaku. Uh, I guess maybe they made some kind of bond these last couple. I don't know. I agree that it feels weird. It doesn't feel in line with his character. I don't know why Lucci would care about him, but
Well, it's interesting to me because I think when we talk about character development over the course of the series, one of the, I think, real criticisms and genuine criticisms that are not wrong about One Piece is there aren't a lot of character arcs that have a lot of progression, right? Usopp was a coward in Volume 4 in Syrup Village, uh, and he seems to kind of get over that a little bit by beating one of the fishmen, and then you think he kind of gets over it a little bit more when he becomes Sogeking, Sniper King. But even in Wano, he's like, "Oh, Nami, just go ahead and say and tell them that, just go ahead and tell them that Luffy's not going to become the Pirate King." I think it's really interesting to me to see a character like Lucci, who we have been told is just this ruthless killer who just like murdered all these Marines who deserve to die, who someone like Spandam, obviously Spandam's kind of just like a scumbag and useless. He's like, yeah, I'm not even gonna stop them because I don't even care about you because you didn't order me to do it. This seems sort of like this is a new sort of thing. It feels like for One Piece, something that's more like different from how oftentimes we see a lot of the characters. To really start seeing his ideology maybe change.
yeah, to me it just feels a little bit more. I think I would need to see a lot more from Lucci to be able to say it seems like his ideology changed. Right? To me, Oda's a great writer. He's a phenomenal writer, but it doesn't mean he can't make mistakes, right? And to me, it just seems like this is more of an inconsistency with how he's written the character. Now, if Lucci remains in the story going forward, which I don't expect, and we get, more and more growth, we see why maybe then I would change my stance. But to me, this just seems a little bit more like inconsistent writing.
Oh man, come on, man! You can't be like this. I feel like this is a
You
real.
agree?
I feel like this is
You
a
agree that
real
it
character.
no, but you agree that it doesn't make sense for his character, right? So if it doesn't make, why doesn't it make sense for his character? Because it's inconsistent with what you've seen before, right?
Yeah, yeah, but that's different between just being like it's inconsistent writing or like poor character writing. To me, I feel like Oda is someone who definitely has an understanding of who his characters are, and for him to actually choose to show this side of Rob Lucci, like referring to Kaku as his partner, especially in a story that in which like friendship and being on a crew together is such a significant piece of the story. To me, it feels like a reasonably like to me that feels to me, especially given right that Lucci has been someone who sort of one of the original contrasts between him and Luffy that we see back in Water 7 is that you have Luffy, who's this guy who will do anything for his friends, and Lucci, kind of similar name. I don't know. But,
I'm sure you
but
were
you,
the first person to point that out.
but you have this dude who in the exact same way seems to like not care at all about his friends and is also seen as sort of a prodigy, and like obviously it's not in the same Blackbeard kind of way, but there's not every single bad guy kind of re-shows up in the story in the same way that Lucci does. I think that when we talk about what his development looks like, and not to mention just even as he's become stronger and more relevant to the story,
Yeah.
to me, this feels like an interesting choice from Oda about demonstrating that a character's ideology has perhaps lost in some ways.
So I think a great example of what you're describing is in Luffy versus Katakuri, because that's exactly what you exactly said is the whole point of the Luffy Katakuri fight, where it's like Katakuri has to take everyone's burden onto his own shoulders and never show any kind of weakness and always be standing by himself and whatnot. And that Luffy is like a lot. There's a lot of videos out there that can go into it a lot better than I can, but I think you get my point, right? Where there's this difference in ideology and reliance on your crewmates and all these other things. And at the end of the fight, Katakuri acknowledges almost that Luffy has, I don't even know if Luffy surpassed him physically, but that Luffy's mentality was essentially the right one, right? And him, he's there lying on the ground. I personally believe that he could have gotten up if he still had the will to fight, but he didn't really have the will to fight anymore because he had kind of come around to Luffy's way. Like in that way, Luffy won that battle of ideology, right? So if a character like Katakuri comes back and you see these kinds of differences in him, I'd be like, yeah, because Oda wrote this whole fight around this transformation of his character. But Lucci and Luffy's fight was never written in that way. So to me, again, I just think you're glazing Oda a little bit too
I
much.
think,
Oda can
oh
make
man,
mistakes. He can make mistakes. I
this
love
would
it.
be such a silly mistake to make. Like, why would why like this would be such an easily avoidable mistake to make. You just have him be like, I don't care. Mars is literally just like, I don't care. So unless you want to suggest that he included that line just to demonstrate how Mars thinks about the rest of everyone, like just to think about how he thinks that everyone is insects, like
Exactly, exactly. I think it was essentially to show that not only do the Gorosei not care about the pirates on the island, they could care less about their allies on the island too. Like, all of these humans are just insects.
but so it's like to me, it feels like there's other ways you could have done that, right? Like Saturn showed up, like you could have done it with Kizaru, you could have done it with so I don't know, some of the like literally Saturn showed up on the island and people said like Marine's heads just like started exploding, right? And he's just like, you all are a bunch of insects. So to me, it feels like we wouldn't necessarily have to do it. But as you know, right? Like I've talked to some about the possibility or like the idea of whatever the alliance, like that there could even be like a Luffy and Blackbeard, some sort of alliance where they have to fight the world government. Maybe they fight after or whatever. Um, and I think that as we see a lot of these characters who are recurring sort of come to a different kind of ideology in the eventual fight towards the end, right? As we know, one of Luffy's main powers that makes him the most fearsome power on the seas, according to Mihawk, is the ability to get people to join you. And do you think there's any possibility of us seeing Lucci's heart sort of start to change such that he might end up being a part of some kind of alliance as time goes on?
No, I don't think that can happen. Just like I don't believe Doflamingo is gonna change. I mean, Crocodile never changed. He Oda reintegrated him into the story, but it's not like he's ever going to be a part of Straw Hat Pirates or anything like that. I don't expect these kinds of villains that are almost like bad to the core, or or ever going to, or something like NL. I don't expect NL to reappear in the story and be an ally of the Straw Hats, right? I think he can reappear, but he's still going to be like in an antagonist role.
That's fair. I think it's interesting for me to think about what that alliance could look like, but it's also true that it could be possibly unlikely. It would certainly be something that was uncharacteristic for a shonen manga. So anyway, after Mars flies off, Dory and Brodgy
Can I say one quick thing? One
go
quick
for
thing
it.
about that scene. It's just because it's about that scene. We get a lot of shots of Mars and his big mouth. Like this big beak and this big massive mouth. He's just standing there
Right.
with his mouth
Oh
open.
my God.
I was just wondering if that mouth did anything for you because you were really obsessed with Jupiter's with his mouth. This was the
Bro,
only thing you could point out.
listen, man, it's the shape,
I was
the
wondering if that
shape,
moved you in any way.
the shape of the mouth did not do anything for me for Mars. It's something about the hilarity of the shape of the mouth and the way the rest of the character's face kind of looked while that mouth was open that created a sense of humor for me. And hey, we'll be getting into talking about the break soon, but hey, we can talk about why some of these animals are great, but no, the bird,
Is that
that's a
what you call
beak
humor?
also. I said mouths and beaks are different things. So Mars flies off. I did not have any particular feelings about watching the character fly off and or the mouth that it might have had while it was on screen. And then Dory and Brocky get ready to escape with Luffy and blow what you might call a shofar, a big old Tequila Godola, as Mercury throws crazy Hakia right back in their face, blowing Luffy's eyes close and Scar off. Did you know that the Giants were Jewish? Abraham?
Oh, I, I swear they are Vikings. Are there like actually are there Jewish Vikings that just
Bro,
existed or something like?
bro, there might have been Jewish Vikings. I don't know. Probably not.
Oh,
But I do know that one of the things that we do a few times a year in the Jewish culture, Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, the High Holy Days, I think do we might even blow it a little bit on like Passover or something. There's like some other day that we also blow the shofar, but it's a big you know what shofar is? It's a big old ram's horn and you like blow it, and at the end, it's one of the big things to like commence the high holy days and sort of like close it out. And so at the end of a bunch of commands, the rabbi will say Tekiah Gadolah, which basically means like blow as long and hard as you can. Someone will blow in a ram's horn until they're red in the face. But I was texting our friend Josh, and he was like, "Yeah, man, that's great. The Giants are Jewish, man. There's representation in here. That's very cool."
where's the because they blow that 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 horn at the end,
Exactly, man. It's just like a
bro.
shofar, man.
They also do that in like SpongeBob, and they also do that in like Anchorman. Like,
What do you mean Anchorman? They're blowing a ram's horn at Anchorman?
no, they use like a giant shell, but like Ron Burgundy, he blows into it. He goes, "News team, assemble!" He blows it.
Bro, but it's a conch, a shell. Those are not because again, SpongeBob, it's like the conch. It's a ram's horn is the specific thing that you blow into in Jewish culture, and it look like I want you to go and Google shofar, Shofar, right?
So FAR. Just Googled it. Let's
But like,
see.
if you look at the short ones, right? Like look up like a short shofar or something. Tell me that that's not what Dory and Bragi were blowing into.
I mean, it is what it looks like, but I'm just saying it's got
That's what it
like
looks like.
I've
That's what
seen
it looked
I've
like.
seen other. So is SpongeBob Jewish too? Like,
Bro, he blew into a shell. He didn't blow into a ram's horn. If he blew into a ram's horn, I might say he was Jewish.
you know what? If you can find me any Jewish Vikings, I'll believe you. Until then, you know what? I gotta tell you, these are Vikings,
Bro, it's an amalgam of cultures, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's
bro.
he's bringing certain things from the Vikings and he's bringing certain things from the Jews.
Okay,
It's Purim right now, bro. It's Purim right now. It's a Jewish holiday. We're gonna
I've never
celebrate
heard of it
Purim.
before, but I'll take you on your word.
Yeah, long story short is they tried to kill us and then we survived. The end. Every Jewish holiday.
Got you.
Some guy named Haman. If I say Haman, you gotta go like boo. So like some guy named Haman.
Ooh, okay.
Exactly. Some guy named Haman, who had a triangle shaped hat, was like, I'm gonna try and kill all the Jews. This guy doesn't bow down to me because he's Jewish. And then Esther, the king's new wife. There's a whole weird thing with the wives, but she helps save everyone. So every Purim we do the whole reading, and we talk about the story of when Haman.
Mm.
I said Haman.
Boo,
Exactly, because you
boo.
because you do that literally every time someone says that in when you tell the story. Uh,
Bro, is he like the Jewish Voldemort? He who must not be named.
yeah, there's basically right, yeah, like basically right, like honestly, he basically is. But now we eat little triangle hat or triangle shaped pastries on the holiday, because of
Like
that. So
spanakopita,
say what?
like spanakopita. Have you ever had spanakopita before? It's like
I don't even know, bro. I
pastry
don't even know what that is.
filled with like cheese and spinach. It's like Greek.
Ooh, no, it's a pastry though. No, no, no. Oh, you think that's some other triangle one? That's no, it's sweet.
Yeah,
It's sweet. You'll fill it with like,
yeah.
I mean, I've had some that are filled with other things, but it's like filled with like, like jelly normally or like chocolate or like whatever.
That's
There's a lot of like internet memes about like what type of person likes which one. And the triangle shaped, and my roommate said that they slap. So, end of discussion. Jews, the Giants are Jewish. There is no possible other way that you could interpret this part of story. Uh,
any other sentiment is anti-Semitic, right?
exactly, bro. Exactly.
Oh
So,
my
so,
God.
so don't be coming out here saying anti-Semitic things. Uh, the Giants are Jewish, and the Elder Stars are, and maybe you have to say Elder Plants, whatever. They are Haman. I-
Boo.
exactly. We got cultural lessons here. So the
Yeah, we
Elder
did.
Stars, after the Giants blow the shofar, the Elder Stars throw some venom bomb balls at them while Luffy takes a tree that's nearby and Joy Boy form doing ridiculous things. Always eats a tree like it's corn and makes a 56. By the way, the wordplay for 56 is Gomu. I don't know if you knew that. Bat from a tree. Yeah, you heard. Hey, man, I see you
I,
making that
I did.
face.
I did. I knew that. I mean,
Yeah,
because I've heard it before. I've heard it before
yeah.
from all of you people.
So he makes a Gomu bat from a tree and knocks the bombs back at him. But the Elder Stars recover as the Giants remark that they've never seen this type of power. What do you make of this type of power, Abraham? They said it's something unseen before. Some of our friends in the chat were saying they think I think it was your cousin Aaron, whatever his freaking name is. Uh,
I don't. Yeah.
yeah, our friend Aaron was saying that he thinks is devil fruits. I know we've talked some about this, but kind of interesting having the Giants remark that they've been around a long time.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I don't believe that this is a devil fruit because I mean the biggest thing is the summoning circle stuff. Like, there's just no devil fruit that
Mm,
works in that way. I We know that the underworld is a real place because we know that Brook went to the underworld after he died and that his soul was able to come back from the underworld. So maybe there's some connection between the underworld and these people, but I don't know what that is. I think this is this is something that I have to think about a lot more because it's just there's no way it can be just a devil fruit.
yeah, I completely agree with you. I think the devil fruit people are just kind of crazy. You obviously cannot like sure there are zones, sure you have the black lightning, but there's no way you can just like summon five people into one place because you have a devil fruit. Now, whether or not they were created by him, whether or not they are, fragments in a Voldemort type way. We already mentioned Voldemort in this call, because of Voldemort being the or Haman.
Ooh.
As a test. Voldemort being that guy of the Jewish community. Um, but so I think like I'm still really intrigued as to what this original source of power in the world. We know that we're going to find things about dreams manifesting. I'm really intrigued too, as I'm beginning to think about Luffy's powers and how ridiculous they are. Bonnie's powers, which are about bringing imagination into like manifest in the world. We know that devil fruits kind of have wills of their own, and to me, it's really interesting thinking about what is the nature of the powers of the world in the first place. As you know, I think we're going to get some kind of answer to that when we get to the end of Vegapunk's revelation.
I mean, we're not. It's okay. I think the one devil fruit that I the one way I won't rule out it being a devil fruit ability is if this is like if Emu has some kind of like nightmare devil fruit ability, something like that, and these are like spawns of that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So not that each of the Gorosei have a devil fruit, but they're like creations of Emu's devil fruit. Then I could get behind that because I wouldn't expect it to function as if all of them have their own devil fruits. They don't, right? But right now, it does feel that we're just going to get more. We're going to learn more about who the Gorosei are, what the origin of the world government is. They clearly are not human because they think of humans as insects. So there's just so much that we're going to have to learn about. That's honestly probably what we're going to learn about from Vegapunk. Like,
I
why
think
do the
those two
Gorosei keep
things.
calling these humans insects? Probably because they're not human. And maybe we'll learn about that. Maybe we'll learn about the void centuries, stuff like that.
And I think those kinds of things might be connected as well when we talk about the power of the world, which would be really interesting to see. Maybe something we talk about in this break we have coming up. But finally, as we reach the end of the chapter, the crew manages to rendezvous at the ship with Bonnie. Kizaru, laying down wounded, tells his subordinates that my wounds run deep and to let him rest. And the giant robot is seen amidst flames across the island, standing taller than the giants and growling, "Forgive me, Joy Boy." What do you think is going on?
I mean, this the giant moving in response is not something shocking, right? Because we saw when Luffy first went Gear Fifth how Oda went out of his way to point out that, oh yeah, the robot is kind of responding to something. I still really wonder what the energy source is. What this makes me think of is something like, and we've talked about this before, the pump fruit that Bello Betty has, where she can energize people,
Mm.
she can get them hyped up in order to incite revolution. If the drums of liberation kind of have a similar effect, because that seems to be the energy source that Oda is hinting at, right? Is the drums of liberation themselves. But then we also get
It's
what,
almost like
what
there's something interesting about the source of power. Some might say the nature of powers in the world that could be related to this giant.
oh
I'm just saying,
oh
it's almost as if
we
that's the
can go
case.
we can get into that. We can get into that in one of these breakfasts. I don't mind dismantling all of your erroneous opinions.
You were just saying things that sounded to me as if they could line up with these so-called allegedly erroneous opinions. That's all I'm saying.
We gotta find out. We're going to find out what this energy source for the giant is. Right now, it seems like it's just the drums of liberation that are somehow able to power it. Like I've talked about before, how I don't like all this intangible stuff that it doesn't make sense to me. But maybe Oda. Oh, I'm sure Oda's gonna have some explanation because Oda's a great writer. Maybe it isn't even the drums of liberation. Maybe it's something else. But that's if you were to ask me what's powering the robot right now, I would have to say it would be that.
I cannot wait for my rightness on this. And I do want to save this for a future week so we can continue to
Rightness.
talk.
What
I
rightness?
just, the rightness of that being part of Vegapunk's reveal, but some sort of, because Vegapunk is probably going to die. Well, you would agree he's probably going to die at the end of this arc, yeah?
I mean, his heart stopped on him. He might already be dead.
He might, yeah. I mean, Sanji's carrying the body around, so I just assume he's gonna be alive. Because I'm like, why else would Sanji be just like carrying this dude's body around? To me, it seems likely that because we're not going to have the opportunity to get the depth of his knowledge, he seems to have some understanding of why when Luffy's around, the giant might awaken. He's the one who's been researching the giant. And when he talks about sources of power in the world, he starts mentioning the power that dreams have, and where he mentions where devil fruits might come from in the will that they might have, and how dreams can actually become a source of energy. I think that as we get things to tie that together, especially when we talk about whether it's the sun god or in an arc where we have Bonnie's power that allows people to manifest their dreams, some might say, or their imagination, SpongeBob hands in the real world. I think I think that we might get some kind of explanation for why the giant robot is moving, or at the very least something that allows us to be able to imagine why it's able to move.
Yeah, I just so Vegapunk's announcement is to the world, right? That's the thing. If this, I just to me as a citizen of the world, do you there's there there are people in the world who don't even know that devil fruits exist, right? We see back in East Blue that there are some people who think that devil fruits are just like some kind of fairy tale mythological thing. I it doesn't make sense for the announcement to the general public to be about this power system because it feels like so few people would actually care about that. Rather, what seems to be more relevant to the public at large is this whole system that's based off of the world government providing protection and having all these countries under their flag. But really, oh, the world government are they're involved in the black market and they fund these pirates and they do all these other things that create discord in the world. That seems like it would be much more important for the general citizens of the world to learn, especially if we want to overthrow the world government. There needs to be a loss of trust and faith in the world government. So to me, that's why I don't like. I agree we're going to learn more about this power system in general, but if we're making an announcement to the world at large, then that's what makes more sense. Now, if this was just meant to be a revelation for the reader, then I would agree with you. That's not really what this is being built up as.
I think that's a really good point. What I'll say is I think that there's a way that the whatever the world government has done to actually shape the world to its liking is most likely, in my opinion, going to be related to whatever this sort of like nature of the powers that exist in the world are. And I think that those two kinds of things are going to be a sort of combination reveal where we understand that and we understand what the world government has actually done to create these conditions in the world. And that's why where those two kinds of things are going to combine. Because I agree with you that it can't just be like, here's where devil fruits come from, because that's not something that would really shape the world in the same way. Do you have any idea why the Iron Giant might be apologizing?
It seems like there's clearly something that happened in history, right? Zunisha. So the obvious parallels are to Zunisha with this giant, and we know Zunisha has been walking around for like 1,000 years to atone for some sin, right? We also have the pornoglyph back on Fishman Island, which is like I think it was an apology from Joy Boy, not an apology to Joy Boy, right?
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
and then now we have this giant, right? So there was clearly around the time of the 4th century, there's clearly an event that happened that led to, obviously to the downfall of the ancient kingdom. That's how the world government took over, and these ancient tools, be it like maybe this ancient giant, Janisha or whatever, um, that's somehow Joy Boy was, I guess, left hanging, was like disappointed in some way. I don't have any idea what that could be, but it's just like a consistent parallel that we've seen in a lot of these different arcs in the post time skip.
Yeah, it is. I wish I was a better historian in terms of all the references to the Void Century that we've had, but things like Zunisha obviously seem related. I think when it comes down to whatever the war between the current world government and the ancient kingdom that was clearly eliminated by the world government, I think it seems clear that a lot of these sort of mysterious figures we've met, such as the Iron Giant, such as Zunisha, probably even such as the Kazuki clan and Wano, as far as why Pluton resides there and has not actually been captured by the world government. I think that those are all very like I think that when it comes to what happened in that war and whenever we eventually find out what the world government did to eliminate them,
Mm-hmm.
we're really going to find out a lot of like the giant robots, Zunisha, et cetera, are all going to end up being allies in whatever that ended up being.
Oh, yeah, yeah, for sure. I don't expect them to be written out of the story at this point. I think Zunisha will be reincorporated into the story, especially with the Minx. I think the same thing with this robot. Yeah, it's just hard. It's hard to know what they could be apologizing for when we don't really know what allowed for the ancient kingdom to be overthrown, right?
Maybe it's part of why they failed
Oh,
that
oh yeah,
that the
for
giant
sure.
wasn't able to accomplish what it was trying to, climbing up atop the red line. Who knows? But the final thing we saw as we approach the chapter is One Piece is entering a 3 week break. That means no chapter until basically the same time next month. Abraham, how are you gonna? I'm starting to get scratchy already. How are you gonna deal with this?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna be tough because I feel like we're just never gonna find out what Vegapunk has to say at this point. Like, I thought we were gonna find out like 3 chapters ago, and here we are. We still haven't learned about it, but yeah, it'll be fine. I've got what am I gonna do to pass the time? I've been getting into solo leveling recently. I've been
Mm.
reading. I've been catching up on like my One Punch Man stuff like that. So I'll probably be doing that. I got to catch up on JJK. I'm anime only right now, and I had a massive. I'm not going to spoil it here, but I had a big spoiler for the manga that was accidentally spoiled for me a little while ago. So now I got to
Mm.
catch up on the manga.
Oh
Yeah, so I'll
no.
probably do a bunch of stuff like that.
Dang, bro, I'm just gonna be scratchy for real. I'm gonna be looking at the One Piece spoilers. Like I'm gonna be looking up One Piece 1112 spoilers. Like, are they out? Are they out 3 weeks early this time? Are they out like 1 month early? Like, no. Okay, dang.
Oh man, yeah.
It's definitely gonna be tough, man. Especially just because yeah, like if this would have happened at some point in the middle of like Wano, I'd have been like, well, whatever. Like it's not like we're about to find out like the whole nature of the world, like some kind of major lore reveal that we've been waiting on literally for like 25 years. We've been waiting on this lore reveal for like 25 years, maybe like 20 years, whatever, a long time. And we're just gonna be blue balled for another week. So it's gonna be
Three
hard, man.
weeks. Maybe not another week, another 3 weeks.
Yeah, another sorry, that's what I meant. Another month is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be tough, man. It's gonna be tough.
It's okay. It'll fly by. It'll fly by.
You got an award for us this week? Now that we got to the end of the
I
chapter.
do. I do. You know, the NBA regular season is starting to wrap up, right?
Mm.
And they have this saying in the NBA for teams that are kind of basically they're eliminated from the postseason and the players aren't really trying anymore. They don't really want to be there, but you kind of have to wrap up the regular season still and go 1, 2, 3 Cancun. And the reason that became a thing is actually because the Houston Rockets did that one time, 1 year. They were like the eighth seed. They were down like 3-0 in the playoffs, and they went out of a huddle. And they were this is a true story. They came out of the huddle and they were
What?
like
I didn't even
one,
know
two,
this.
three
What?
Cancun.
I
Yeah,
gotta look
they're like
this up.
1, 2, 3 Cancun. They're like we're out. They were already checked out.
Dang,
um,
that's
even who
crazy.
is the Houston Rockets did that. So
That's like
I'm gonna give that.
unbelievable.
Yeah, I'll give that 1, 2, 3 Cancun award to Kizaru because he is clearly just he's at this point where he's just like, get me out of here. I'm just
Dang,
I'm tired of
bro.
fighting my friends. I'm tired of getting my ass beat. I'm tired of everything. Like
Dang, bro. Man, this man having a difficult. This man having an emotional experience attacking his friends, and he getting 1, 2, 3 Cancun.
1, 2, 3 Cancun. Yeah.
Oh man, my award also sports related and gonna be related to one of our later segments. I'm gonna call this the Shohei Ohtani Award. You know, Ohtani, one of the biggest sluggers and great pitchers of our time. And you see Luffy making that bat. That was a home run, man. He really knocked those things. He really knocked that out of the park. So I gotta give Luffy a Shohei Ohtani Award.
Unlike Shohei, you don't need a translator when you read your interpreter when you read your One Piece mangas because you speak Japanese, right? You can't get into any trouble with this interpreter.
You can't get into any trouble with the interpreter, which
Can't get
we'll be
into
talking about that later. I realize we haven't done theories, man.
No, we haven't. Give me one. I want to hear it.
Okay, okay. Well, so the as you know, we got a lot of Blackbeard theories out there. I'm not so sure you're gonna like these, but I was having trouble finding some videos I thought were really interesting. But Blackbeard is a descendant of the Davy Jones figure that the Davy back fight is named after. And the reason he can hold multiple souls in his body is because he has some kind of like some sort of figure that's like a locker that allows him to hold souls, whether it's through his devil fruit or through some sort of lineage. That's what allows him to have the three sort of people residing with him and have multiple devil fruits. S class or F class.
Honestly, I don't believe in it, but I like it. Like I said, whether or not a theory is S or F doesn't really have to do with how likely I think it is to come true. Actually, so I never watched Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't really know much about Davy Jones' Locker, but I like the idea of this, where it's uh we know he's got some kind of weird body. I don't know. This seems like it could be some creative solution. Maybe he has like some kind of kraken, devil fruit, or something. I don't know. What is that? Does the theory go into it a little bit more? Like what is it about Davy Jones' Locker that lets him do all of this?
It's mostly because Davy Jones's locker is a locker that people's souls go into, and so it holds multiple souls essentially in terms of the mythology of where that term actually comes from. And again, we have been told that Davy Jones is some kind of pirate in the One Piece world. That's who the Davy Back fight is named after.
Right.
And so, if that character is actually a historical figure in the One Piece world, there might be
Yeah,
some kind of lineage factor that's also might be what's special about Teach.
yeah, no, I like it. I'll give it an S class.
Oh man, I thought you were gonna F class that for sure.
No. I mean, I think Oda takes inspiration from real pirates all the time, right? We already know, like you said, the Davy Backfight is a real thing. You already know
I
that.
know
I
you
think the
love
Davy
that.
Backfight is making a comeback in the story.
Man, we having a
So
David Back fight.
we'll
I
see.
swear to God. What about you,
Hey,
Abraham? You got an F class or F class theory for me?
well, we'll see. This is from your favorite YouTuber, Dax Sake, that you just roasted last week again.
Yeah, I
Uh,
want to say I was actually thinking of Marshall D. Preach. I realized when we were talking about Dak Sake. So but we might get into favorite YouTubers eventually. So we'll see. Go
yeah,
ahead. I just want to say
yeah.
I gave a bad reputation when I got it wrong.
So this is about the eight Emu's weapon that was used to destroy the Lucia that a lot of people assume to be Uranus. The gist of this theory is that it is not Uranus that was used to destroy the Lucia, but rather um I guess a copy of the weapon that was produced by Vegapunk in a similar way to how Frankie had the blueprints to Pluton, but he didn't have the actual ship that and that the government was trying to get their hands on this blueprint so that they could make their own Pluton and wreak havoc and whatnot. And obviously they failed back in Water 7 to do that. But if they were able to, if there were some, uh, I don't know if it would necessarily be blueprints, but if uh, Vegapunk succeeded in recreating the ancient weapon Uranus, and then that was the uh, the weapon that was used to destroy Lucia.
My understanding of this theory would be that the ancient weapon Uranus, we have no actual idea where it is. The world government may not actually necessarily know where it is, but Vegapunk has created a version of it, and that is what is in the world government's hands, and we might end up
Yeah,
finding the actual thing later on in the series.
exactly.
I think that is an S class theory. It's
Right.
interesting because it opens the door to a really interesting possibility, which is the Straw Hats having a good version of a lot of these ancient weapons, right? Obviously, we have Shirahoshi, on our side. I'm not sure how else there might be another Poseidon, but we can worry about that later. There's theories that Blackbeard has been going after Pluton, and now that he might have taken some knowledge from his with Katarina Van from his time on Egghead Island, he might be going to Wano next to actually go take the Pluton. And the fact that Frankie is the one with the blueprints gives us the ability to actually counter that. And I think the idea then that there's this version of Uranus that we're going to actually need to counter opens the possibility for some really interesting stuff in the story. There's no part of it that feels totally impossible either. So I think that's a total S-class
Yeah.
theory.
Listen, yeah, this guy also says stuff like, Vegapunk is inspired by Einstein. We know that Einstein, like, he wasn't on the Manhattan Project, but that he gave like a lot of the research that he did served as like the foundation for the science that was used to develop the first atomic bomb. That the one of the elements that was used to develop that atomic bomb was uranium. Uranium, Uranus, all this kind of stuff. It goes into that kind of stuff. But yeah.
S-class
Oh,
theory. Well done, sir.
yeah.
The second theory I have for you, I'm going to be honest. I have one that I think is better that I just haven't fully watched the video and want to see if there's something more interesting there. That I think is a pretty interesting theory that you might still give F class to. But I'm going to come with another one about Blackbeard. We're just going to go with this one's a lot simpler, which is that Blackbeard is a descendant of Joy Boy himself.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to give that. Unless there's more info that's gonna change my mind. Just with that sentence, I'm gonna have to give that an F class because we already know that Blackbeard is not the man that Roger's waiting for.
But
Like,
being a descendant of Joy Boy doesn't necessarily preclude someone from being the person Roger's waiting for. It could possibly be that being a descendant of, again, he is a D, first of all, remember that.
right, right.
And it could be that there's a descendant of Joy Boy who happened to go completely rogue and is not necessarily the good guy that Joy Boy actually was, or he's trying to fulfill the role that Joy Boy was trying to fulfill, but going about it in a way that's not in line with the values of Roger, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I don't buy that. I think that first of all, it'll be an impossible thing to prove, right? Like, what kind of unless I mean maybe black we don't know anything about black people. It's like how are you gonna go back 900 years and be like that was my great 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 grandfather or whatever, right? Can't really do that. But also,
Bro, you don't think they have
black
genealogy?
no, I don't actually. Also, Blackbeard, he doesn't stand for what we've been made to believe the ancient kingdom stands for, right? And it could be interesting if he did have some descendant that kind of went rogue, kind of like I don't know my Naruto lore as well, right? But the descendant of the Sage of Six Paths, right? He had like two sons, right? One that became like the Uchihas and one that became the Senjus or whatever, right?
Maybe.
And
I don't know.
the Uchiha like right, but like the son that ended up giving rise to like the Uchiha clan, right? He got in his feelings because he didn't inherit something from his father from like the Sage of Six Paths. Instead,
Mhm.
the Senju clan
Okay.
did or something like that, and he kind of went off on his own. So, I could see something like that happening. I'm not saying it would be a bad thing. I just I think the line that you're not the man that Roger is waiting for is very meaningful because I think the man that Roger is waiting for is the same person that Joy Boy is waiting for. And I think and I don't obviously you don't have to be a direct descendant to be that person. Luffy's not a direct descendant of Roger. He's probably not a direct descendant of Joy Boy. I think it's too meaningful of a line for me to be like this could be Blackbeard's role in this lineage.
Does that make it officially an F class theory?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to give it an S class. I already gave out one S class today as well. You gave out two
Bro, I'm trying to get that grade inflation, bro.
No, we don't do that here.
Was it time for the arts and culture segment, Abraham?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Well, we've already teased some of what we're talking about, mentioning Shohei Ohtani. Major League Baseball has announced a formal investigation into LA Dodgers star Shohei Ohtani's role in a gambling scandal involving his former interpreter Ippe Mizuhara. Ohtani is the most famous baseball player probably in the world right now. He's definitely the best. He's a two-way star, pitches and hits, and is probably the most famous person in all of Japan, maybe all of Asia. He's also incredibly, he's tall, handsome, and incredibly good at sports. Don't be making that face at me. I know when I see a good-looking man, I know I'm willing to give a man props for being very handsome, and he also has a sparkling clean reputation. When I talk with my sensei and we were talking about this, she really insists on saying his reputation is not just that he's great at sports, but also that he's gentle. Now, earlier this week, Mizuhara, the interpreter, was fired by the Dodgers after it came to light that he had at least $4.5 million in wire transfers sent from Ohtani's bank account to an alleged illegal bookmaking operation that is currently under investigation by the FBI. At first, Mizuhara said he racked up gambling debt and Shohei paid it off for them. Then Shohei's people said he had stolen it from Shohei's account. The bottom line is that he wired money from his account to an illegal bookie who was under investigation by the FBI. That's why this came to light, and now he's being investigated by the MLB. Abraham, what do you think?
I think Shohei's got to be careful. He's not just with the people he keeps around him, but like, did you see the contract that Shohei signed this last offseason?
$700 million, putting a lot of it on the back end. Yeah.
Right. A lot of it is on the back end where he's basically getting over the next 10 years, he's getting 20 million, or I guess the next 9 years. And then in the last year, he's getting 680 million. And a lot of people think that he's doing that. Well, I shouldn't say a lot of people. Some people think that he might be doing that because, if he retires or whatever, and is like living in Japan when he gets that money or something like that, like to avoid paying taxes on it or something like that. So I'm saying he's got to be careful because I'm sure the IRS is already looking at him really, really closely. Like, we're coming for what's ours, right? I have no reason to believe that he has a gambling addiction or that this is like a Pete Rose kind of situation. Do you know what happened to Pete Rose or no?
I do, yeah. He was gambling on baseball and he's been banned from baseball in the Hall of Fame.
Exactly. I have no reason to believe that this is a Pete Rose kind of situation unless more evidence comes to light. I think
now he's under investigation. Now, the money was transferred from his account to an illegal bookie. Yeah. And also Mizuhara, it was from his account, and Mizuhara makes around $300,000 a year. So it's kind of crazy that he was in $4.5 million of debt.
Yeah. So the thing is, right, like how responsible, let's say my cousin was an NBA player, right? I racked up some crazy gambling debts and he helped me pay it off. He's just like, I don't want these bad people to be coming after you. Here's some money to pay off your debts. He's not the one gambling, right? But I'm only able to pay off my debts because of his money, right? I don't know if that was the story that his interpreter first told, right? And then obviously their whole camp was
and then Shohei ended up saying that he stole the money, which would mean that somehow he managed to get $4.5 million from Shohei's account, and the bank was just like, that's shit. Like he did not like that the bank did not ask any questions when he stole this money from Shohei's account.
Well, maybe he did a thing where it was like, hey, I mean, I don't know why an interpreter would have access to your financial.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
It's not like your manager, it's an interpreter, right? I was going to say maybe he's doing something like, look, we need to invest in something like this, so let me invest this 4.5 million for you, and then lo and behold, he just used that 4.5 million to pay off his gambling debts. The whole situation doesn't
But the
really make
money
much sense.
was transferred not to his interpreter, which is how he could have done it. It was
Yeah.
transferred directly to the illegal bookie.
So
So if he
do
was
you
doing
think
it,
that Shohei has the gambling problem then? You think it's that the interpreter's like a fall guy?
it, I'm not gonna say for sure, but it definitely seems like a reasonable possibility. I like my buddy Julius was texting me about this, and he's like, "Yeah, okay, his interpreter, uh-huh, yup, his interpreter got fired, yeah." And as a joke, I sent him the Chris Carter, what got Chris Carter fired from Fox, I think, or maybe it was ESPN, when he got on at an NFL rookies symposium, and he says, now, if you get out, you all might be doing good things. You might not be taking drugs, doing drugs, staying out late. Just get yourself a fall guy who knows that if something goes down, that he's going to jail. And it just seems not unlikely that this dude is taking the fall for Otani
Yeah.
because Otani is a human and people do get gambling addictions. And it does seem reasonable. This is the sort of thing that could have happened to him.
Bro, you know better than me, but I feel like gambling is a real issue. I don't know, gambling. I was gonna say gambling addictions feel like it's a real issue in a lot of these Asian countries too, like Korea, China, Japan. Like, there's a lot of men with gambling addictions there.
Yeah, well, I think it's an issue everywhere, and I was listening to Bomani
Yeah.
Jones talk about this the other day, and I'll tell you, he's very on the. He's like, if Shohei wasn't Asian, then like no one would just like people just think Asians have like a sense of honor or whatever, and no, he's like no one would be like, I just believe this guy was not gambling, right? Like if Ellie De La Cruz had this story come out,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you think we would really be here if Ellie De La Cruz had this story
That's
come out,
true.
being like, oh yeah, it was definitely his interpreter. He would never do this.
That's fair. That's fair. But look, man, we live in a country where you're innocent until proven guilty, right? But like,
It's true. It's true.
I
And
don't know.
it's just going to be
We'll
an
see.
interesting question what this investigation turns out.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
it's weird.
interested in waiting to see.
It's really, really weird. Like the explanation that um Shohei would have paid off his debts willingly to help out a friend almost seems to make more sense than he stole it. But
Yeah,
because of
yeah.
the details of what you're saying, right? But I
So
don't
it's
know.
crazy they changed it, but yeah, I don't know either. Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see. Maybe we'll be back here another week talking about that.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. You know, I don't get it with also people like we talked about this with Keishon Butte a couple of weeks to months ago with the LSU student who was gambling on games and stuff where it's like you've this is even worse if it was Shohei that's gambling because it's like you've made it. You've made it, mate. You just signed this big ass $700 million contract, like we just said. What are you doing? Throw, throwing it away,
You
gambling on
know,
baseball games. Like, also, I got another
bro,
question. Were these sports bets made on baseball games, or were they like,
no, no,
for the
they're not made
NBA or
on
the
baseball
NFL?
games. But currently, they
Okay,
weren't made on baseball games because obviously, if it came out they were made on baseball, then this would, this would be potentially huge and potentially crippling for the MLB, where their biggest star has the scandal.
I
But
actually, I'm gonna say
clearly,
something real quick there.
clearly
Yeah.
you must not have heard the Bruno Mars news that I don't want to get into now. If you think making it, it precludes someone from throwing away this money.
I guess. I actually don't have an issue, even if it comes out that it's him that's gambling. About like gambling is now legal in most states, right? Online gambling, right? You can go on DraftKings or Bet365 or any of these places in most of these states in the U.S. and gamble. So if he's just betting on like basketball games, football games, hockey games, stuff like that,
It's with an illegal
how
bookie
different?
though, who was under
Hmm,
investigation by the FBI.
okay, okay. I mean,
So illegal
I
gambling is always illegal. That's the thing.
yeah, so the thing is, what makes this is you probably don't know the answer to this, but like what makes what he's doing illegal and what stuff like DraftKings and Bet365 does illegal? I feel like the only difference is that these sport leagues get a cut from these online sites like DraftKings, right? Because they're partnered with them versus if I made a bet with you right now, like I remember when the Raptors won the championship, I had a bet with my buddy from Philadelphia, a $50 bet on the outcome of that series, right? And the Raptors won. I got $50. I guess that was an illegal, some illegal gambling that happened or something. I don't know, right? But it just morally, it doesn't seem any different from these sites. It's just that these leagues are not getting a cut from these bookies and whatnot.
Well, that's interesting. I think I might have to do some research to find the answer to that. But Abraham, you have a topic you want to get into next.
I do. I just turned 30, right? Like 2 months ago. And we all know Jordan's he's an older gentleman. He's an older gentleman that likes older women. He's been 30.
Yes, sir.
Right?
I need these
Uh
grades to come in so these old women keep liking me now.
I don't know if this happened to you, but when I turned 30, everyone just it's like that's such a cliche question. Does it feel any different to be 30? How do you feel now that you're 30? Oh, like do you have a whole new perspective? And it made me think about what where I imagined I would be in life when I was 30 versus where I actually am in life at 30 and the difference in what I projected versus what reality is. And I guess how does your current life compare to what you imagined you would be doing at this age, maybe in your early 20s?
Man, well, when I was younger, I really thought I wanted to get married and have kids and all those kinds of things. I was like, oh, 28 would be a great time to meet someone and then get married around the time you're 30 and you have kids. And now I'm 31 and I'm like, no, I don't want no kids. No, I definitely not looking to get married, um, maybe ever, but definitely enjoy my singleness right now. So I think that's definitely one of the biggest things. I think I also am just I didn't expect to have the track career that I've had to this point. And hopefully I get over some of this long COVID and able to feel better. But I think that for me, it's all the real little things. I was on the phone with a friend the other day, and I was this morning actually, and we're just kind of talking about the way that the social scenarios that we find ourselves in have changed. For example, I went to the club on my birthday, my 31st, and I was like, man, what, like, why did I ever think this was like, what do you mean I'm supposed to just like dance up randomly on some girl and she's gonna like turn around and like look at me and then like either like smile and keep dancing or like scoot away and then that's it, like, and that's basically the feeling for the night, and then from that point on it's like, I'll either stay with you or see you later. Like, what do you mean that instead of actually dancing, I'm supposed to just move back and forth, side to side, and like bounce into people? And every single conversation, it has to be at the top of my lungs. What's your name? What? What's your name? Uh, Janice. I don't know why I
Yeah.
got to Janice, but like, I, it's interesting to see the social situations that I'm in change, being at dinners, being the only single person a lot of the time. The houses are getting a little bit nicer, a lot of dinner parties.
Yeah.
And there are ways in which I feel ready for it and ways in which I don't.
So I think the thing that jumps out to me the most, it's jumped out to me the last 2 years because over the last 2 years, I've gone to at least like 13, 14 weddings for between friends, mostly friends and some family, where a lot of a lot of the friends in my life are either at the point where they're getting married and or having kids, right? And I feel like if you were to ask me at 21 where I would be in terms of like family planning and stuff like that, or career wise. I'm still in school. I'm still probably going to be in school for like another 4 years, right? So I like look into the future and I'm like, is my life even really going to start with respect to all of these things before my late 30s, before I turn like 35, 36, 37? which is just crazy. Not crazy, but it's compared to what I would have expected when I was 22. It's completely different, right? I don't feel like I'm anywhere close to the point where I want to have kids. I still want I love children. I would want to have kids at some point in the future. I don't feel like I'm close mentally to that point in my life. I don't feel like I'm close, in particularly close to getting married at this point in my life too. Like I don't feel that strong desire
Ooh, how old your
to.
girlfriend? How old your girlfriend?
How old? She's just turned 29 this
Ooh,
past
uh-oh. We'll
this,
see. We'll see when that clock starts ticking now.
yeah, a week ago she turned 29. Um
We'll see when that clock starts
so
ticking now.
man,
Might start getting
you
some
get it,
questions
man.
soon.
Bro. One thing at a time. I can't. I gotta deal with my own problems before I can deal with other people's problems, man. I'm not trying to have that conversation right now. That's the thing. Um, but yeah, I think there's this expectation. I don't know that it feels like there was an expectation that I had for myself that was set based off of what people told me that was not really grounded in reality, right? Especially because our parents' generation, there were obviously people who went to college and got advanced degrees and stuff like that. But I feel like there's also a lot of people who either started settling down after high school or straight out of college. It made a lot more sense for them to be, I guess, further along in their lives than we are now. And it almost just feels like I've been not sold a bill of goods, but that I've been led to believe that the expectations that I've been led to believe about where I should be in life were never really grounded in reality because I'm nowhere close to it.
And you're doing great, man.
Huh?
I said, and you're doing great.
I am doing great. That's the thing. I mean, I have male privilege, male privilege. Shout out to male privilege. I don't need to worry about my sperm going bad. I don't need to worry about any of that kind of thing. I make more every day. So I don't really feel pressed. I feel fine. I feel happy with where my life is. It's just not where I expected it to be.
Maybe next week we'll get into vasectomies.
That is not where I was going with that. I don't think that could be me. I feel like it would hit too close to home. I'd be like, man, you make like one wrong snip and then all of a sudden I'm like impotent.
Hey, listen, I was just thinking about because they say the most common days to do it are right before March Madness because you got just sports all day for however many days when you got to sit around. So, you
I
know, you, I know I have an uncle who did it when he was like 25, and you never know. You never know. Uh,
never know.
But that is all we have for time. Come back next week to get deeper, maybe into power scaling. Maybe you'll even find out what YouTubers I hate on. Maybe we're going to even keep talking about different things about aging because now we're both in our 30s. But who knows? We got 3 weeks of break to fill. So we're going to be doing that. In the meantime, we are your friends who read One Piece. Help us get more friends by liking, sharing, giving us 5 stars, and keeping an eye out for TikTok, which is where apparently the cool kids are right now, unless it gets banned. Maybe we'll talk about that again next week. Talk about that next week as well. Thank you to all of anyone who listened. Peace.
Easy, y'all.